Where were you 20 years ago?
98 was the second time I became homeless. So I had two life-changing things happen in a very short space of time. The career I was so passionate about ended and I lost my home. And what helped me is I was just curious. I was open. I would carry bags. I would make coffee. I would show up and try to make myself valuable. I was ready to take whatever information and wisdom they had to share.
What does it mean to have a billion-pound, billion-dollar deal? He's wearing purple, y'all. A purple full, I mean, this is a custom suit. It has to be. It has to be. Oh my gosh. Dean, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, everybody.
Man, Dean, you know what? You know how to make the most of a week. That's what I've learned about you. What is your strategy when you come out? Because you're in London. Let's say you're going to New York, Miami, LA. What's your strategy when you have a few days out here?
Well, I don't have any days out. You know, I live every day, try and put as much into every day as possible. And to do this with you gave us the opportunity to come over here. So we've had some great meetings. I caught up with Emma Greed, Mo Gilligan from the UK, a bunch of different people here. So we've really made great use of the time, building new connections like everybody's here to do today.
And Classic said you had a $1 billion deal. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a billion-pound, billion-dollar deal?
That was an amazing moment. You know, I've been in tech 25 years. I've been really fortunate to get a couple of acquisitions done, sell a few companies, but to do one for €1 billion, it was just mind-blowing. Different set of numbers, you know?
You see how easy he says, just €1 billion euros. It's $1 billion. I want people to understand, if they don't, where were you 20 years ago, 25 years ago?
Well, that's something we have in common. So 98 was the second time I became homeless. That was the end of my football career. You guys say soccer, but that was the end of my football career at the time. So I had two life-changing things happen in a very short space of time. You know, the career I was so passionate about ended and I lost my home. And it's been a very, very long but progressive road back since then.
Because we do see the headlines. That's the whole point. That's why most people feel badly about themselves, is they see the headlines. They don't see the days between the Instagram posts, right? So what is something that people may not understand about getting to $1 billion deal? We'll start with the side of it, of just the path there.
I mean, when I came out of playing football, my first job was to do cold calls in this windowless basement room. There were like 40 of us on different pods trying to bang 80 cold calls a day. I cried every day, like for the first 2 months, because it was such a transition from being, you know, training and practice with your friends to you got to make 80 calls. And I had a manager at the time whose management style was to scream at you from like 4 inches away. So it was, you know, it wasn't enjoyable. I just put one foot in front of the other. You know, I got into tech, I got into private equity, I got into investing. And in 2022, we got that €1 billion deal done.
And did you, yes, that's worth it. And when you got that $1 billion, because and we got that $1 billion, did you go back and kick that manager's ass?
No, we leave that to karma.
So I joke like that, right? And Dean is so chill, right? He's so chill, but it's part of it. What I have, in speaking with you this week, what I've come to understand is there's an incredible amount of wisdom behind that. And I don't often get to hear people talk with such, I'm going to say, forgiveness that you speak in. Yours is almost like, I say forgiveness is a productivity hack.
Right.
And it feels like you live that. Why do you have like, even when I asked you about, you know, your upbringing, you had to kind of move from home to home and make these decisions that would have broken my heart, to be honest. It's almost like you say, I take accountability for that decision.
Yeah, I'm a great believer that you use time to change like history a little bit, right? So, you know, look back to being homeless. Some of the things I learned when we were homeless was incredible resourcefulness. I was thinking about this morning, that our school was 3 miles away from our home, and sometimes we didn't have money for the bus. So my mum would take us to like the taxi rank, you know, where the cabs were. And we'd just stand on the taxi rank until one of the taxis had a fare that was in the direction of the school. And she would hustle the taxi driver and say, hey, you're going that way anyway, you may as well take my kids like half the way to school. So I didn't live in despair in those moments. I learned things, I learned resourcefulness, I learned resilience, and all of those things have helped me in my career.
I know there's some people who are wondering how you did the $1 billion deals. Like what, we don't have a lot of time, and I know we would probably take 2 hours to get to that. But essentially, what, because you're one of the few people on the stage who have more of a tech background, like Sunira does. How do you go from doing sales to being in a position to even make a deal like that?
So I grew up in sales, and then I had the opportunity to run the non-Americas part of an American software company that wanted to grow outside of the US, but didn't have a great deal of understanding about what that really meant. You know, they would say crazy things like, in the software, we have the American dollar, and then for everywhere else, we have the non-American dollar. And then say, well, no, we have different currencies in each country, guys. So that was a good opportunity to build something outside of the US. We did a great job building that company and sold it to Oracle, one of the largest tech companies on earth. And that got me into the conversation with private equity and investors who are buying software companies in Europe. So a friend of mine, invested in a company in France, asked me to come and be the CEO, which I did, and that went really well. But what I learned through each of these CEO experiences is how to really change the trajectory of a company. Like find the one or two things that this company can be great at, and just double down, on those things. And over time, we've been able to, grow and scale companies and get them, attract interest from much bigger companies to acquire them.
One of the things I know about you is that you had some incredible mentors. When I say incredible, I don't personally have an opinion of them. It's more of their names are big, right? What does true mentorship look like?
It's a great question, because sometimes I think people misunderstand the role of a mentor to be this Svengali, teacher and imparter of wisdom. There's a lot of responsibility on the mentee to be open and engaging and curious, right, to get the best out of those relationships. So I did have access to people like Charles Phillips at Oracle, Chris Bain in the UK, fabulous tech leaders. But what helped me is I was just curious. I was open. I would carry bags. I would make coffee. I would show up and try to make myself valuable, because I was ready to take whatever information and wisdom they had to share.
When people come up to you, which I'm sure they do all the time in England, wherever you go, and they say, like people say to me, "Hey, can I just talk to you for 5 minutes? Because I'm shooting my shot, and if I talk to you for 5 minutes, everything will change. I need to talk to you." What is because we know there's just not enough hours in the day, and also there's so much value in teaching things at large in moments like this. What should that person do instead? How should they gain the thing they're looking for instead of asking the person that they see on TV or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think you got to work hard to distinguish yourself and make yourself, valuable in that interaction. What I appreciate most, and you're right, we get a lot of those interactions, which are a blessing. It means we've done something that other people believe is valuable. What I get frustrated by is when people haven't done their research, right? So I get pitched a lot of times for investment into Fortero, and people say, we'd love to invest 10 or 15 million. I say, well, this company's valued at 2 billion euros now. This isn't, you're shooting at the wrong rim here, right? So I like when people are researched, they work hard to distinguish themselves, how you're going to be memorable, and they put, something on the engagement that makes them valuable to me. They have some piece of insight, some piece of wisdom, some joke, right? Something that makes them valuable to me.
It occurred to me, going back to the mentorship question, that a lot of your mentors have been white. And that is kind of this, it's not unspoken, because we talk about it all the time, especially me, but this is sort of this unspoken thing of there's a, like, sometimes people don't want to work with people who are not Black if they're Black and otherwise. What value do you see in having that diversity around you?
Well, I think there's two sides to that, right? Firstly, the kind of rooms I wanted to be in as my career was developing were occupied mostly by, older white men. So if I wanted somebody to explain to me how that room moved, how that room operated, how to be successful in that room, there was more of them to speak to and learn from. So I was just open to that. And I think you must be open to that. Who has the wisdom? Who has the experience that can be shared with you? I think that's part one. And part two is for people like us who get to points like this. It's like incumbent upon us. It's our responsibility to be those mentors for the next set who are coming up. And that's what we try to do at Forbes Family Group, just be a set of positive, aspirational mentors that our community can look to.
How do you do that if you have so much going? I mean, how does one do that? Like to flip it. How do we mentor when we're so busy doing the thing that makes us successful for other people?
Yeah, that's a tough journey too, to make others understand that I'm valuable as a mentor because of the spaces I occupy, the deals I get done, right? The pace of my career is what makes me valuable as a mentor. But if I carve my week in half to be a mentor, I'll be less valuable to other people. So the only way I've found to do that at scale is by setting up a foundation, which we set up ourselves, Forbes Family Group, investing in that foundation, getting my friends and my network who have got great experience, great talent, to support the Forbes Family Group in being mentors to the community. So it may not be me personally, but there's 12 or 14 of us at Forbes Family Group who are doing that work, a bit more scale.
And I love watching the Forbes Family Group Instagram, because first of all, it looks like a movie. Y'all, I don't know what y'all filming on, but it looks so good. And it's so valuable. And it just kind of came out of nowhere for me. It's just like all of a sudden there's just this value. So Forbes Family Group on Instagram, y'all. There's this value. Who made that decision? Because I get it. I talk about it all the time. Yeah. This is why we're sitting here, is the fact that I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and other places sharing that knowledge and sharing those experiences. Who made that decision, and why was that decision made? Especially given your wealth and the fact that you could have closed gates easily.
Mm-hmm. Very conscious and intentional discussion, between my wife and I. We have kids. So suddenly you're super visible and you're doing these deals with these big zeros in it. That doesn't always attract the kind of attention that you want. But we sat together and said, we've had this journey. We've done combined 2 billion euros in exits, and I do think of it as me and my wife, even though I'm the one in the seat.
The family business. That's why it's the Forbes family.
It's both of us, and we made that choice. We said, we ought to be more visible so that the versions of us 10 or 15 years ago can look at something and say, it's possible. How did they do it? It's another way to share the journey and the lessons we've learned. It's been enjoyable. We have a lot of fun doing it. Yeah,
and one of the things I saw on your Instagram early on was, well, you do this kind of throughout. You introduce us to your different team members, and it's never ending. Like there's a chef that comes out with the hat on, and there's a driver, and it's amazing. It's like you're making your own reality show that's interesting. It's actually valuable. One of the first things I saw was you talking about, actually it was you bringing on the people who help you with your estate planning, talking about the importance of building wealth. Because we talk about generational wealth, we almost say it without even thinking what it really means. Right. What does it really mean to have generational wealth, and why is it important to have people who may be a little further along than you along the ride?
Yeah, that's super, super important to me, and I've been very intentional with that. I learned early on that you need to have a team around you who are capable at the next category, right? If you've got a team around you who are only as good as where you are right now, then it makes it very difficult to get to the next category. When you've got a team around you who are capable or have occupied the floor above you or the 2 floors above you, they start dragging you up. So the video you saw with 2 of the members of my team who helped me manage our money, that's how they behave. They're always like, no, we don't do that, because the billionaire who I worked with, we do it like this for him. So it's like that. Okay, so I want to be on that path to being a billionaire. I'm going to do what he does. Right? It's not rocket science. So having a great team who can drag you up has been super powerful.
And do they know that? Because I can't remember race or anything about them, but do they understand the magnitude of you doing what you have done compared to what we all have to kind of face to get there? Because it's not apples to apples, one person making $1 billion deal to the next person. Some people start on third base.
Right.
Do you kind of look for that in your team too?
It's a two-way street. So I've had to educate them. So my lawyer is black. My financial advisor is a white guy. So I've had to educate him a little bit. One of the great examples is that coming from where I come from, I'm carrying a lot more of well, not carrying, I have an obligation to a lot more family members than a lot of my white counterparts have. It's very normal in our culture that you look after aunts, uncles, cousins.
Who can relate?
So, you're trying to get him to understand, no, when this money comes in, it's not all mine. This money is, all of ours. It gets cut up like this. So that's a bit of an education, but he's excellent, and that's why he continues to work with me, because he's great.
The Forbes name, do people think that you're related to Steve? Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you use that to your advantage? Do you think it, not necessarily, I've met Steve, he's an okay guy, but is it having that name, has that done something to your branding?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, I never thought about it, but yeah,
yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
I still have to be good when I show up, though. Like, I can't just...
Yeah, that's right. You show up and they're like, yes, of course. But you have a presence all of your own. I wonder what makes, I'll ask you the same question I asked Issa last night. What makes you laugh? Because you do have such a presence of calm.
Oh, that is a trained and educated demeanor, because if you see me with my friends and my family, I'm the idiot making the jokes and throwing stuff at people.
But what does make you laugh? Is a certain show, certain person in your life who can always crack you up?
I love being around my friends and my family, and it's nice to do that without camera phones. I'm from a generation that remembers when there weren't camera phones. It's nice to be able to drink too much tequila, play music too loud, eat jerk chicken and get mess all over me. Like, that's where I'm at my happiest.
That's a great place for us to stop, because as we ascend, as we make our first million and beyond, how do we, I don't want us to stay grounded. I want us to be in the clouds. We deserve that. We deserve that joy. But how do we stay centered so that we can keep going in the arrow? The
circle. Right, the circle around us. And I have a lot of friends, some are with me on this trip, who I've been around for 30 years. And it is difficult, because the places you can go, the way you can celebrate with 100,000 and 1 million and 10 million and 100 million, very different places. And you can, when you got a lot of money, you become very handsome, you become much funnier, you become extremely popular. And it's good to have friends around you who, from time to time, which has been the case, say, you're not that guy. Like, behave yourself. Calm the hell down. That's not who you are. And that has been super powerful. And that's, I think, how I've managed to stay centered.
I love that. I have my wife. I tell her she'll never have to worry about me not being grounded. But I told her, if I ever get too high and mighty, I've trained her to say to look around and say, "Who are you talking to?" and to leave the room.
Right.
If it ever gets to the point where I talk to her like I shouldn't talk to her, she's supposed to say, "Who are you talking to?" and then head out. But it's so true when I have my family, and it's so true that is that hug around you. Right. And if it's not birth family, it's that family you make. Right. And it's just, you want someone, to the point of my wife, she was with me when I was at the airport. Like, she was on text with me when I was at the airport, sleeping on the ground, on the floor. So of course she's going to be with me when I got Janet Jackson's truck behind me on the stage of the Peacock Theater, right? So I appreciate that. Is there anything else you want to say to these entrepreneurs from all walks of life that are here?
Well, firstly, I think it's wonderful that you guys are all here. You've all invested in yourselves, in your personal development, to come here and see what you can learn and see who you can meet. One of the things that has helped me infinitely in my career is that curiosity, and being able to dial down my ego and dial up my curiosity, because you never know what you might learn and who you might learn it from. But congratulations for making the big step to even be here. And of course, you had a great host, so it made a lot of sense.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dean. Appreciate you.